Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and you listeners already know that my favorite topic to talk about is marketing, because I don't care what type of business you have. Marketing is the growth fuel for your business. You cannot ignore it. You have to focus on marketing, and that's why we have found an incredible marketing expert and fellow entrepreneur as a guest for today's episode. So let me introduce you to her. Her name is Meg Jones. Meg is a marketing strategist, Google Ads expert, and the founder of Max Leads Digital, which is a boutique agency that's helped scale service businesses and luxury brands through smart, data-driven advertising. She's managed over $200 million in ad spend and built a reputation for helping clients hit 14 times return on ad spend without relying on social media gimmicks. Trust me, we are going to go there with her here in today's conversation. She's also a fellow podcaster. Her podcast called Born to Scale is a podcast and a brand that blends marketing psychology and mindset to help entrepreneurs build freedom-based businesses that actually grow. And if you heard in her bio, one of her core themes, of course, is business growth. So we're all going to get a lot from today's episode. Let's dive straight into my episode with Meg Jones. All right, Meg, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
Heck yes. I'm so excited to talk all things marketing with you. But before we geek out about that, you've got to take us beyond the bio. Who's Meg? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
So everything started when I was working as a marketing copywriter. And I was working alongside these amazing marketing professionals, mostly female. And I was just amazed by the energy in that marketing office. This was like 13 years ago, probably. And I, at the time, didn't know what to do next with my career. And I felt so inspired by how SEO, how SEO and Google Ads work, how search engine marketing works. And I decided to just self-teach myself SEO. And after that, I experimented with a self-started blog with my first name, last name.com, and started implementing everything I learned from that SEO course on that website and started selling products while blogging and implementing all SEO strategies to on-page SEO blog posts. And then I actually took a chance on myself and applied for marketing positions at agencies. And surprisingly, agencies trusted me, someone so junior, someone who had no on-company, non-corporate experience, to basically handle their clients. And that's how my journey as a marketer, a digital marketer, started.
Yes, I love that overview, Meg. I'm going to call this out really upfront in our conversation today, is that I think that starting in copywriting is a massive advantage for marketers. I think that if you can master copywriting, then you can apply that to all of the fundamentals of marketing, because ultimately, what is marketing? It's moving people to action. And in copywriting, you have to focus on the psychology, the words, the messaging, the positioning, all of those things, the calls to action, all of those things that go into it. Talk to us about that entry point through copywriting, because I feel like, especially with AI, it's becoming a bit of a lost art.
Absolutely. And I feel like AI is kind of getting in the way of writing authentic copy, but that's a whole nother topic. I learned when you do copywriting for the purpose of marketing, then you start tapping into call to action, hook, and basically you have to write in a way that's appealing, and you have to capture the attention of your audience in probably like the first 5 words, which is hard to achieve. But I didn't do it for a very long time because I knew that I had to do something with more something that involved numbers and performance. So I dove right into performance marketing, Google Ads, SEO, and everything that is measurable.
Yeah, and let's go there because I love even the name of your company, Max Leads Digital. The takeaway is right there, even in the name of your company of Max Leads. That's what so many business owners are looking for. And Meg, something that I really appreciate is that you focus in on the whole marketing mix, which is both the paid side of things as well as the organic side. You've already given a few shout outs to the SEO side of the world. Talk to us about that marriage between the two, because I feel like so many people, when they start to go down the marketing rabbit hole, is they pick one or the other. Not many marketers these days are marrying those two and building that bridge.
Great point. And I'm actually against marrying one or the other. I do believe that they are together. They have to be together. And actually, there's a new player in the game. It's not even only two things anymore. Now we have this thing called AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, coming from your background. Now we're not just talking about having presence on the top of the search engine result pages. We're also talking about how do we become the recommended first business in that AI overview, right? Or in separate AI tools. How do we get a high mention rate from ChatGPT, from Gemini, from Perplexity? So now I offer full stack marketing, and AEO is definitely a very important component of what I offer for my clients. And so far, we're seeing very high rates of mention rates. When you start early on these technologies, if you are on top of your SEO, if you've been on top of your SEO for many years and now you're marketing person or your in-house marketing specialist, does not matter how you form that marketing culture. If they started implementing those AEO optimizations into their SEO strategy, then chances are you're going to have a high AI mention rate from early on, and you're going to be winning the game.
And what I think is really important to call out is that when you talk about winning the game, you talk about actual performance, actual leads coming through the door, and then obviously on the back end, turning those leads into paying customers. I love the fact that even your bio calls out a little bit of shade that I like to throw on the air, which is the opposition of vanity metrics. So many people measure their marketing of, 1,000 people saw my post on LinkedIn this week. Well, okay, how did that turn into tangible leads? Meg, talk to us about that conversation, because I'm sure it's one you have with a lot of business owners where they do get sucked into that world of vanity metrics, of impressions, of click-through rate, maybe of all of those things without measuring the stuff that matters. Talk to us about your approach.
I don't completely dismiss those metrics. They are definitely part of the story, the data story, and you have to pay attention to every single thing, of course, in order to get a good CAC at some point, or in order to take your business to the next level. But what I'm a big advocate of is that be visible where it matters. Having 1,000 impressions or 10,000, 20,000 impressions on LinkedIn or Instagram does not matter if none of those impressions turn into paying customers, right? It's like our businesses are like human beings. One of the most primary needs of humans is being seen. And your business needs to be seen, but it needs to be seen where it matters. And where it matters, that platform is not social media. LinkedIn is, at the end of the day, social media, unless you're using it for lead gen, which is a whole nother department. But search engine is where credit cards are being pulled, right? Where people actually have that high intent. So I'm obsessed with making businesses successful on the search engine, and that could mean Google and sometimes Bing, depending on what you're selling and who you're selling it to. But it essentially means that you know where your audience hangs out when they're ready to purchase something. And that's a lot of times that's the search engine, that's Google.
I want to talk about the where, because I remember years ago, I haven't listened to Gary Vee in quite some time, but I remember around 2019, 2020, Gary Vee was out there telling business owners, you need to be on every single platform. You need to be posting on Snapchat 10 times a day. And when TikTok came up, you need to be posting on TikTok 30 times a day, and Facebook and all of these platforms. And Meg, I found as a business owner that I just don't have the bandwidth to be in all of those places. And I very intentionally picked my lane and I picked my channel, but I know that a lot of business owners are trying trying to be in all of the places, which ultimately means that they're doing a mediocre job across all the different platforms. What's your take on that? Because you're not just someone who is great at paid ads and not just someone who is great at organic. You also are a marketing strategist. And so with that strategic hat on, what's your answer to business owners who think, well, I need to at least have an Instagram account. I need to at least have a YouTube account, have a Snapchat account. What's your advice for them there?
It depends on the client's needs. If somebody's trying to become nationally known and they have all this budget, you can spend all that money to be on all platforms 7/24. You can do the Gary Vee formula. However, the kind of businesses that I help are smaller businesses. I have a background in very high budget clients. However, what I'm doing with Max Leads Digital is I'm focusing on service-based small businesses that have anywhere from $2,000 to $50,000 a month to spend on ads. And when you have such, conservative budgets, you don't have the bandwidth or resources to dilute all your marketing strategy on all these different platforms. You have to focus on high intent platforms. I hate this term, but it's so true. Low hanging fruit. You have to find the low hanging fruit, and it's typically on the search engine. And you have to formalize your funnel in order to feed the top of it, the middle of it, and then you have to lead the conversion through your sales funnel as fast as possible, as quickly as possible. And the more platforms you use, the longer it's going to take. Why not capitalize off of a platform, which is a search engine, that already has that attention? People are not on Instagram when they need their car fixed. People are not on Instagram when they are having plumbing issues. They're not going to be looking up best plumber near me on Instagram, right? They're going to be on Google. So you have to catch your customer when they need you with the right message at the right time. That's why I'm against diluting your time and your life energy on all these different platforms, to be honest.
All right, Meg. Well, along those lines, we're less than 15 minutes into this conversation and you already dropped the F word. You already said funnel. So let's go there on the air, because too many people, I see them that when they are running ads, they run ads. And I'll call out local service businesses. As someone here in Tampa, Florida, you call out plumbers. And I think plumbers are a great example because those are very profitable, successful, scalable businesses when positioned correctly. However, some of the local plumbers have never been taught, hey, when you are paying for ads, great move because you're going to get in front of that intent-based marketing, but don't just run ads to a website that's not optimized for conversions. You brought up the word funnel. Walk us through that, because I feel like it's an overused word that not many people break down and say, okay, let's actually build a funnel in my business.
Right. It's understanding the level of readiness of your prospects, right? On the bottom of the funnel, excuse me. On the bottom of the funnel, you have people with real problems. And this could be home services, and this could be, something that is a bit more generic. That could be a school, it could be a product, local or not. Just not personal brands necessarily. So you have to formalize, you have to create a framework for your business to capture the attention of audiences that are on different levels of readiness. And on the bottom of the funnel, people have instant needs and they're looking for things. Your job is to make sure you're dominating not just the first page, but also the 3 different components that the search engine delivers. Now in 2026, the top of the page starts with, in the past it used to be sponsored ads. Now it's AI overview. And after that comes sponsored ads, Google ads basically. And then after that comes organic results. And in plumbers' cases, home services case, you're going to have local guaranteed ads, which I think are going to go away soon because they're becoming a bit dull. Or Google's going to find a way to make it more image optimized because everything is images and videos now, right? So your job is to make sure you're present in all of those 3 spots. And in order to do that, you have to have a very strategic plan that hits all of those three areas. And that is Google Ads, SEO, and AEO. Again.
So, Meg, hearing the way you talk about that, it's something that I appreciate as not only someone who does marketing, but someone who is on the receiving end of marketing, is that component of the fact that we don't treat people based on where we are as business owners. We have to treat people based on where they are. You've talked a few times about measuring their readiness. And really what I'm hearing in that messaging is serving different people differently, is that we not only measure that readiness, but then we serve them in different ways with different emails, different touch points. What does that look like? Because I feel like you're really revealing part of the biggest strategic lever that most business owners forget, or most business owners just nobody's ever sat them down and said, hey, let's be intentional about the way that you show up for these different lanes of people. What does that look like?
Right. And it's interesting that in 2025, Google announced that the traditional marketing funnel is dead, right? Basically, user behavior changed. In the past, since you mentioned funnels, people used to just jump in a funnel and then go through levels of readiness, and then they would purchase, and that would be a conversion. Now, Google is saying that based on the data that they looked at, and Google owns all of the data on the internet, and they are realizing that it's not that linear anymore. So they will go on Google and look something up, and they'll try to find you on social media to make sure you're real or you're reliable, and then they'll go to LinkedIn and they'll look you up, but then they'll come back to Google and then find you again, maybe look at some competitors. So it's like this mess, and they call it the messy middle. So what I typically recommend my clients is that we shouldn't necessarily be overwhelmed or scared of this fact that it's so messy now to get a conversion, but we should be prepared for that customer research to happen, starting with the search engine, and they might look at your social media. So I'm not going to recommend my client to be like, let's spend all this money on social media and post every day. We use most of my clients' social media as a portfolio of their business for when people find them on Google first, and then come back to social and look them up to kind of verify the quality of service, what they do, kind of examples. And that needs to match the energy of the website, right? Because they first go to your website. So my biggest recommendation is have those platforms ready and looking nice. It's like your garden, but you're going hunting on Google, basically.
Yeah, I love that perspective on it and that analogy, because it does make it so visual for so many of us. But Meg, I'll say the one part that's not very visual for business owners is most of them have never seen behind the scenes of Google Ads, for example. And recently I was talking to somebody who works in the paid ad side of the world, but primarily for Facebook and Instagram. And even she was the first to tell me, hey, even if you understand paid ads on the meta side of things, Google Ads is its own beast. Obviously, it's interest-based targeting versus intent-based that you've already introduced us to in today's conversation. And obviously, as consumers, we know that when we do a Google search, whatever our search term is helping Google to shape what it is that we see on the search engine results pages. But Meg, for people who have never braved to take on Google Ads, what does it look like? Obviously, there's the creative, there's the keywords, there's targeting, so much of that. Walk us through the different components of a Google Ads campaign.
So it's an amazing tool. It used to be called AdWords, and that's when our grandfathers used it to generate leads for their, plumbing, window cleaning, pressure washing services, and they were very brave about it. What I'm seeing with millennials and newer generations is that they're very scared to use this technology, mainly because they don't understand and they don't know how to delegate it. They're very afraid of losing their small budgets and giving it to someone who doesn't necessarily, who they're not sure if they know how to manage Google Ads, right? So they just stay away from it. They try to do social media and Facebook ads and things like that. But Google Ads is an amazing technology where you can do targeting in so many different ways. And the main way is keywords. So you, as a consumer, think about how you look for a service, right? So restaurants near me. That's like very, very basic. And all of a sudden you get all these results, all these recommendations that Google shows you. And it all starts with that keyword. So you are basically telling Google, give me customers that are looking for this particular thing. And I have that thing. And I can prove it by having this website for you. So I'm going to take that customer through that keyword. I'm going to capture their attention. I'm going to send them to my landing page. They're going to go to my landing page and see that I'm a real business, because that's my storefront, right? My landing page is my storefront. And they're going to either call me from there, they're going to hit maps from there, or they're going to fill out a form to get in touch with me. And that's how I'm essentially going to bring a customer in the door. And that's what Google Ads does. Like, imagine having a physical store on the street and not having any digital presence or digital world. Let's say the internet doesn't exist. You want people to walk by your business and see your storefront and want them to come in and buy something from you. And that's what Google Ads essentially does.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way that you articulate that overview for us. For so many people that Google Ads is scary for. And I'm going to pick on that last visual example, is that if I am a local CPA, for example, let's just say I'm a local accountant, historically, hopefully I'm in a part of town where people walk by or drive by my storefront, and that's what causes them to come in. Well, now in this digital world that we're all living in, we have different storefronts online, and I think about all those business owners who are investing all of their time into social media saying, I hope someone sees these posts. I'm just posting it and the algorithm is hopefully showing it to the right people, versus if I throw $500, $1,000 into Google Ads, I can pick exactly who it is that Google is showing my ads to. To me, it just seems like a way more reliable way to get my storefront in front of people. Obviously, Meg, full transparency, you and I are very biased here. I'm putting that out, but listeners can obviously tell that. But I feel like it's a really compelling case for people. However, the sticking point there is, of course, budget. Is people saying, well, do I need to have $50,000? Do I need to be a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, or have the money for a Super Bowl ad in order to advertise? How do you help people navigate that, particularly when they're just starting out?
You have to have, of course, some money to start, but not $200,000, not $50,000. You can start with literally $500 a month, depending on what you're selling. But you have to look at this from a business perspective. What you're going to put into ads is going to be designed by your ad specialist to bring in a positive ROI, right? So let's say you spend $500 on, what was the example you just gave as a business?
An accountant.
CPA, local CPA, right. So let's say that you get one customer from spending $500 on Google, and you charge them, and they end up having like all these multiple businesses. So you're going to do CPA consulting, or maybe, if you're going to help them with taxes, and you charge them $2,000. You now have positive ROI from that ad spend, even if that was one customer. But that's like a worst case scenario, right? If your targeting is tight and you know exactly who you're going after, you're targeting the right keywords, right zip codes, right income level, which Google Ads allow you to do all of these different things. You can target to the zip code and to the gender, to all kinds of different parameters. And if you do it right, there's a chance that you're going to get amazing return from Google Ads. It's all about working with the right person that can be there to make your funnel better and better based on the data you're getting from that ad performance. So if people are seeing your ad, they're clicking on it, that means they like what the ad copy said, right? They go to the landing page, but then they didn't call you or they didn't fill out a form. But what's the problem? Is it the ads? No, it's not. It's the landing page. Your ad specialist is someone who sees these different details, and they are the ones that will be leading you in the way to improve that customer journey so that next time someone lands on your landing page, they give you a call. And all you need to do is start small, but work with someone who understands how these things work. And it's not about knowledge. You can get on YouTube and learn how to set up Google Ads. There are a lot of ad specialists out there, but you have to find someone that has your best interest at heart for your business and for your family. And once they have that, even when you're working with small budgets, they're going to do what's necessary to get you that positive return on investment so that you can spend more and they can make more money as an ad specialist and you can make more money as a business owner, right? So everyone grows together. It becomes something that delivers value on a consistent basis. That's the goal.
Yeah, so well said. That's the flywheel effect. That's what I think is so awesome about when marketing is working, is that flywheel effect. And the example that you gave, if I'm a service provider that I charge $2,000 as a local accountant, for example, and it costs me even $1,000 in Google Ads in order to get a customer. Well, if there was an ATM or a vending machine, if there was a vending machine where every time I put $1,000 in, I got $2,000 out, I'm going to stand in front of that vending machine all day long. It's going to be a question of how many thousands can I possibly put into it. So I love that visualization in that illustration. Meg, I've got to ask you, in 2026, it's really exciting now that historically we had to split testing, for example. I remember trying so hard to come up with 50 different headline variations and all these different things in my own head. And then I would just start repeating myself because I only have one brain. But I would imagine AI is really enhancing what's possible from a marketing perspective. What's your take on how AI is shaping the arena?
I think that AI is a great tool to become more efficient, scale your content creation, but not completely. You cannot let AI write your scripts. You have to definitely make it more human in order to become consumable by humans, because we're doing it for other humans. We're not doing it for other AI tools, right? And AI tends to become stale and very obvious when it creates content. But you can use AI to get ideas on how to improve your SEO strategy, your Google Ads strategy. You can get a lot of market ideas. Sometimes it pulls accurate data. It just acts like an assistant that's more junior. So that's from the consumer perspective. From ad technology's perspective, Google just announced that it is going to use Gemini for e-com ads. So now e-commerce sales are becoming something else. Google is rethinking, and a lot of other tech giants are going to be doing the same things as AI excels. They're going to start rethinking how a purchase happens on Google and how the ad behavior changes. So now Google announced that they're going to basically incorporate ads into Gemini results. So when you see a Gemini AI overview on a Google search, you're also going to get some product recommendations. I don't know if it's been rolled out yet, but the announcement was very recent. So it's going to be like agentic commerce. It's not going to be e-commerce anymore. And we have to prepare for that kind of change. And because of AI, again, keywords are kind of becoming secondary and questions are becoming the main keyword now. So we have to make sure to adapt that into our SEO strategy. We have to create content that answers direct questions versus fragments and keywords.
Yeah, I love that vision of the future. And the thing that I really want to echo for all of our listeners is that I know how frustrating it can be on social media where it feels like the algorithms are working against you. Something I always like to remind people of in the paid ads world is that Google wants you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed. Their algorithm is for your advantage, because if you get profitable results from Google Ads, guess what you're going to do is spend more money with them. So they want to see you succeed. And that's why I think that the more AI is embedded in these algorithms to help advertisers get better results and consumers to find the things that we're looking for, everybody wins, which comes back to the flywheel that you illustrated for us earlier, Meg. So I knew time would fly by. It always does when I get to geek out about marketing with a very brilliant strategist and marketer such as yourself. But I've got to put you on the spot one more time to ask you, what's your best piece of advice for listeners, knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and hopefully knowing that they're very excited to up their marketing and advertising game. As a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
Consistency is the topic that I'm focusing on as an entrepreneur myself. Try to turn the idea of consistency into something that is high reward. So instead of focusing on that moment of success, which, gives us all the dopamine and all the good chemicals, try to get that from consistent work. And that's going to take you to success.
Yes. Oh, that's the real stuff. Honestly, as fancy as people want to get with certain strategies and tactics, just the mere act of consistency. You and I get to experience that as podcasters, as business owners, and I think it's so important in anything that we do. This is not just business advice, Meg, that you dropped on us. That's life advice right there. Consistency will usually, almost always, win out. So super grateful for you sharing that advice and all your brilliance with listeners today. I really hope that this is the episode that sparks some listeners to say, you know what? I want to reach out to Meg. I want to start taking Google Ads more seriously. I want to start investing in SEO, because that's, once you start ranking really well, that's just traffic that's going to be finding you even while you're sleeping, which it's rare we actually get to say that in business. So Meg, for listeners who want to reach out and find all the great stuff that you're up to, drop some links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Instagram at Meg Jones Media. That's where I share just educational stuff on marketing and entrepreneurship. And you can go to maxleadsdigital.com if you want a free audit on your marketing. And I will basically lead you in the right direction for you to get a better conversion rate or more leads, whatever that may be. You can also follow me on LinkedIn under Meg Jones.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. I imagine that Meg is not the only Meg Jones on LinkedIn, so don't worry about finding her in that crowd. You'll find the direct link down below in the show notes. Meg, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. It was a pleasure.